Welcome to the video, guys. Today we are in the shop working on the 1986 Nissan 300ZX project. If you haven't seen this car or any of my last videos, I'll leave a link above so you can see everything that's wrong with it. But in this video, we're not going to address any of those problems. We're going to be doing something much more important, and that's putting a new turbo on it. It's actually going to be the stock kit from the turbo model. So new injectors, new turbo, wastegate, charge pipe, ECU. I'm going to try and utilize the existing wastegate system that's built into the turbocharger. I'm hoping it all works, as it is probably 36 years old now. I don't know when the turbo was made. Everything should line up. I'm expecting to break almost every single exhaust stud, and I have more just in case. But things you will need: I've got stock turbo, downpipe, driver's side exhaust manifold, driver's side engine mount that mounts to the engine itself, the charge pipe, the injectors, the ECU, and the turbo cross member. With all of these, you should be pretty close to getting it running. You're going to also need some oil lines and some water lines, the wastegate. Got pretty lucky finding this, much more affordable than buying a standalone unit and having it tuned, which could easily cost you upwards of $2,000 to get it all dynoed and tuned. But here is everything. The only thing that I don't know if it's going to work, this is what I've built to make this job easier, or it might not work at all. It actually bolts to your shock towers, and it's going to suspend the motor while I take everything out from the bottom. Because if you've looked at the Z31, there's actually no room to even work on anything without taking all of this out, and I want to leave the AC, I want to leave everything in place and do all the work from the bottom. There are specific O2 sensors for each ECU, so make sure you look up the serial number on your ECU to see which O2 sensor it takes, because they're a little different. But other than that, we're going to get everything soaked with some PB Blaster, and hopefully we don't break as many as I think, because we're definitely going to break at least one. Maybe not. Our next step is to remove the intake manifold, starting with the electrical connectors, gas lines, and any vacuum lines that are attached. It's a good idea to mark all of these and take photos before you remove them to document their location. Most intake manifolds have coolant passages, so be sure to drain the coolant prior to removal. I'm gonna get the injectors pulled out and install the new 260cc turbo injectors that correspond with the ECU that I've got. You could go aftermarket and get a bigger injector and custom tune to run a little bit more boost, but on this one we're just going to go stock, get a little bit more horsepower of it, and just enjoy the vehicle. We're going to get this mounted up there and start hooking up the motor to it. It's just two 2,000 pound or 3,300 pound straps wrapped around the power steering bracket and the AC bracket. Should give me enough lift to pick up the motor. So you put PB Blaster on everything, exhaust manifold bolts, all that, and nothing breaks. And then you try and take a tie rod off, and you chop it off with a grinder? Come on, man. Alright, so I just ordered a new tie rod because I cut it in half. The gasket set just came in, so we're going to get the cross member out, pull the pan off, and we're going to weld a new bung onto the pan for the turbo return. It does have low oil pressure, but I think it's the gauge, because it fluctuates a little bit, but when you're driving, sometimes it goes to 0 or like 2, which is a little sketchy. So we're going to look at everything underneath, check the pan, make sure there's no metal. There shouldn't be, because it still runs and doesn't have rod knock. Here we go. Motor mounts are off, power steering lines are off, tie rods are cut off, lower control arms are unbolted, and it is suspended by the cradle I built. So either it's going to fall on my face, or it'll be a beautiful thing. Oh. Oh, look at that shit. Oh, that's not even tight. Oof. Maybe that's how tight they're supposed to be? Well, here she is. That looks pretty good. So we got the pan cleaned up enough. I'm gonna mark where we need to put the return oil line for the turbo and weld on a bung. And we're gonna stick it back in and start rolling on the manifold. Well, I took a picture of turbo block thinking I could locate the area where the bung's supposed to be. And it turns out that there is a hole in the oil pan. So that's not gonna help. Got the pan in. We're going to start on relocating the alternator and pulling the exhaust manifold out. The alternator will actually need to be relocated to the other side of the motor to make room for the new turbo. We're gonna have to extend the alternator harness to the other side of the motor and get a new belt. Ooh! Oh! We're almost there. So we've got the turbo fully assembled, minus the oil lines. I'm gonna actually mount them on it and slide it in one time. Got a new O2 bung burned in. This is gonna be for a wideband. Eventually I'm gonna wanna see what kind of AFRs it's running, if we need to run a bigger injector or if we need to do some tuning to the prom. And then we'll head up top and start installing the intake. All right, so the turbo and manifold, wastegate, oil feed, and the water lines are installed. We're gonna slap the downpipe on and then put the cross member back in and move up to the top and see if we can get that intake installed. Time to extend the alternator harness. It's actually really nice because you can take it out of the vehicle, extend it, and then just clip it back in, since there is plugs on both sides. It only needs about, I don't know, what's that, 18 inches maybe? I just put this wire in between and kind of just eyeballed it. I'm not too concerned about that. If you don't have a lift and the knowledge to do something like this, I would not recommend leaving the motor in. Pulling the motor might be your best bet, but for me, I didn't have to disconnect anything. I just pulled the bottom out and installed that turbo, and it worked out pretty well. But again, if you don't know how to do something like this and you don't have a lift, just pull the motor out. Your life will be much easier. Oh yeah, beautiful. In the video, it's like gonna be 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever, but this took me probably 20 hours to do, on and off. I work full time, so whenever I have a chance, I come here and I get everything knocked out. Now I'm gonna do some maintenance. Spark plugs, since the top of the plenum is off, I'm going to do the spark plugs and rewire the injectors to sequential injection, I think. I will need to get a wideband O2 sensor and a oil pressure gauge. I'm going to turn it over with no spark and no injector just to get some oil pressure. The dash gauge seems to work. It bounces between 3 and like 28 pounds of oil pressure, so I think it's alright. We're going to fire it up on the factory ECU, the non-turbo ECU, just to make sure everything's running right. Then I'm going to plug in the new turbo ECU and start looking at everything and making sure it's functioning properly. When you buy a used ECU, you never really know the condition. It is sealed, so no one's messed with the prom and no one's tried to reprogram it, so that's good. But we're going to get some fluids in it, oil, power steering fluid, and coolant. And we're gonna start cranking on this thing, and hopefully that turbo doesn't smoke. It is used. Oh, cool. Oh yeah. We got some dinosaurs, 1530 flavor, heavy duty oil stabilizer because there's very little oil pressure. I'm hoping this could help. Oil alone is not enough. Eliminates dry starts, the #1 cause of wear in new engines. Seals worn cylinders and slows oil consumption. Wow. Extends engine life. We'll see. Alright, we're going to plug it in. I think we're good. Nothing's on fire. Almost sounds like it's down a cylinder. That starter doesn't sound very happy. There's no exhaust on it at the moment. It's just the downpipe and the little piece behind that to the cat. And I need to build the rest of it, so it might be a little loud. Smells a little lean, definitely because the computer is wrong. So it runs. I just got the new ECU in it. We're gonna put it through a heat cycle. Hopefully starts. I'm assuming the ECU should be fine. But we're gonna fire it up, let it get a heat cycle into it, and then we're gonna check for leaks once again, check fluids, and then I gotta wait for that tie rod I cut because no one has it. Can't even drive it. So there you have it. Turbocharged Z31. Everything seems to be good. It's dripping a little bit of power steering fluid from the rack where the actual steering shaft goes in. I think I may have knocked that seal loose when I was removing the steering column, but that's an easy fix. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe because the next video we're going to be driving this thing and hopefully it stays in one piece.